Hi, I'm Deb Rivera. I'm doing the second part of Dmtoo5 video, going through the last part of the questions I haven't answered in part one. Three examples of warm-up exercises in the muscle groups that we're using. I'm going to use my cheat sheet so I don't forget anything. We're going to start with the march in place. Just picking up the feet, very lightly putting them down, not increasing the motion because we are in warm-up. If we wanted to increase it, we could use more of the quads and the hip flexors, but just starting out nice and gentle for the warm-up. Remembering that our primary muscles are going to be our hips and our thighs. Our secondary muscles are going to be your core, your glutes, legs, and arms. Marching in place is a good way to get your heart rate up without putting a lot of strain on the joints. It's a low impact cardio move. It warms up the muscles, prepares the body for more strenuous exercise. So then we're going to move to the next part. We're going to go to side steps for a warm up, also called a step touch. Primary muscles used for the side step would be hip abductors and external rotators. You could do more hip abduct if you were doing it like so. Primary abductor is going to be in the gluteus medius. It's responsible for keeping the pelvis level during the exercise. External rotators in the posterior portion of the gluteus, also, or gluteus medius rather, helps to control the motion and of the leg bone. We're targeting mostly your abductors. But you tighten up your whole thigh with the lateral side stepping. From here, we're going to go to a third part of our warm-up exercise with our leg curls. Remembering that the resistance is located at the ankle point and bending your knees to raise your foot towards your backside to contract the hamstrings. To maintain your balance in your upright body position, your core contracts, specifically the transverse abdominis. And when you're contracting, you tighten your navel towards your spine. Then erector spinae muscle, which is located on both sides of the spine, it also contracts to help to maintain your posture. And then your inner and your outer thigh also tighten as you balance on one leg respectively. So that concludes our warm-up exercises and the muscles that we use. We're going to move on to our stretching. From our stretching, we're going to answer a couple of questions here about the stretching. It is a form of physical exercise for a specific muscle or tendon. You deliberately flex or stretch it to help improve the muscle's elasticity and the muscle tone. And part of the stretching would be flexibility, which the goal for that is to uphold your joints, blood flow to the muscles, increase your range of motion. Passive stretching would be to increase your body temperature without actually doing physical activity, whereas active, you're general and specific. You can do low impact or something specific, like let's say it's for dance. Then we're going to go into our stretching exercises, and I'm going to come down on the floor. And we're going to remember that we don't do stretching exercises until we are completely warmed up. We've done some kind of vigorous activity, and then we're ready to do stretching at the end of our session. So we're going to start with flexion and line, and I'm going to be using my little cheat notes again. Starting with our back on the floor, not pressing it into the floor, knees are up. You can bring one knee in at a time, or if you're going to do double legs, you would bring them in as so, either holding on lightly at the top of where the knee is at, or you could go underneath the hamstring. We're going to remember when we're lying in flexion and we're trying to stretch, that we're trying to stretch mostly into our lower back, our erector spinae. You could get up into your upper back as well. Very softly bringing the knees towards ourselves without unnecessary strain. And also contracting in through the abdominals a little bit, not bouncing or forcing the movement in any kind of way. Remember that the abdominals are holding nice and steady, and proper breathing, just breathing in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So from here, from our lying flexion, we're going to go into something more for our abductors, for our adductors, and we're going to go into inner thigh. So we're going to start here. I can take my knees in, my hands can go towards the inside lightly touching my ankle and lightly pressing out with my elbow. Knees are just slightly wide. If you wanted to increase that a little bit, you could actually grab the toe, bring the foot up like so, still keeping nice tension in the inside of the knee without forcing it out. This is more of a yoga stretch. And so this would be a higher level. This would be a second level. And we're going to go back to a first level, which I didn't demonstrate, which is just simply with the soles of the feet together, knees are out, stretching into the inner thigh and hip flexors, and also looking a little at my cheat notes so I don't forget what I want to say. Remembering that you're also getting to the muscles, the iliopsoas, the sartorius, and the rectus femoris. From here, my next stretching exercise, I'm going to flip over here on my side. And we're going to go to a quad stretch. Remembering that you don't want to strain the neck here. You could actually bring the head down and use your arm as a cushion. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be up, so I'm talking. I'm going to remember the quadriceps is actually 4 muscles that are on the anterior or the anterior front aspect of the thigh. This is the vastus medialis, the intermedius, the lateralis, and rectus femoris. So we're going to take our ankle point here. I've got my legs in a stacked position, stretching into my quad. The quad is attached to the front of the tibia and originates at the top of the femur. The exception might be the rectus femoris, which actually crosses the hip line and originates at the pelvis. And so when we're stretching the quadricep, the function to do this as a whole is to extend the knee. And we want to make sure that when you're stretching, your quad, that if you decide to bring it further back to intensify, that you're not getting into the lower back and straining. And because we want to make sure that we are even here with our quad stretch, I'm just going to flip over to the other side and demonstrate my quad stretch on this side. You can also do this quad stretch from a standing position. So lying down or a quad stretch on the ground. So that concludes my 3 stretching exercise and the muscle groups we're going to get into. And I'm going to conclude my video with the last part of my questions and answers. And we're going to go to our biblical references. And these are references that has something to do with health or the body. Starting with Ephesians 4:16 out of the NLT. He makes the whole body fit together perfectly. As each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow, so that the whole body is healthy and growing and full of love. 1 Corinthians 6:19 out of the NIV. Do you know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. 3 John 1:2, our last biblical reference out of the NIV. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. And that concludes my DMT video. This is the second part. I have previously done the first part. I thank you very much. And again, this is Deb Rivera.